Over the past 20 years, ETFs have attracted significant interest from investors globally, gaining assets at a growing pace. ETFs have seen increased demand over the past 5 years and now account for a collective $2 trillion of assets worldwide. With an ever-increasing number of ETFs, identifying the best product can be difficult. Investors do not always know how to make their investment decision when it comes to exchange-traded fund. My goal here is to explain how to compare and select ETFs. As more and more providers join the ETF race, the question really is, how can investors choose the most efficient ETF? Logic might suggest that all ETFs replicating the same index are the same. It's not the case. You do have to be an experienced ETF investor to know this is a misconception. In practice, performance can vary. We know that ETFs tracking the same index do not necessarily produce the same performance outcome. It is necessary to know which objective criteria to use when you're selecting an ETF. Lyxor is actually committed to providing investors with a solution to select ETFs. Well, there's a common analogy, which is to consider ETFs to shampoo. Imagine you're a supermarket and you are looking for shampoo. You see many major brand names. The question is, which one will you select? What criteria will you consider? You would surely ask a specialist for advice. And it's exactly the same with ETFs. The situation is very similar. Although all ETFs track indices, not all funds based on the same underlying produce the same performance outcome. Investors are usually confused by the pure range of choice available. The problem is the tools usually used to measure efficiency are not necessarily suited for ETFs. The current rating system really measures the alpha persistence over time, which is designed for active management only. ETFs are not actively managed funds. Most ETFs are actually passive tracker funds. And therefore, the traditional tools used for selecting funds are not suited to ETFs. This brings us to the point where Lyxor has actually decided to undertake research to provide investors with the best solutions for ETFs. This is the reason why Lyxor asked its research team to design a tool dedicated to measuring the true performance of ETFs. Using an approach focused on the three criteria that matter most to investors. There's performance to the underlying index, there is liquidity, and there is tracking error. The first one, the performance to the underlying index, is actually the fund manager's ability to deliver a return in line with the index, which of course depends on the fund manager's expertise in terms of optimizing performance, as well as management fees and other costs. The second point is the liquidity, which is the cost for investors to actually buy and sell ETFs. And finally, the fund manager's ability to replicate the index with the lowest tracking error possible is the last important point when you look at criteria. Well, someone had to take the first step towards establishing a transparent tool to evaluate the true performance of ETF. Transparency is a key element of ETFs. Therefore, Lyxor decided to come up with a simple and comprehensive way to measure efficiency. With these findings in mind, Lyxor, as an ETF issuer, aims at providing ETFs that are efficient for investors. On a daily basis, we work with our experts to increase the efficiency of our ETFs. The objectives are several. The first one is actually to maximize performance versus the underlying index. The second one is to minimize the cost of trading, which is the bid offer or liquidity spread. And the third one is actually to minimize the tracking error versus the index. Those three combined, which is comparing ETFs returns, tracking quality, and liquidity, ensures a holistic view of the true performance of ETFs. Lyxor is a pioneer in the market with this innovative approach to evaluate ETFs. We also publish research papers and a quarterly ranking comparing the largest ETFs tracking major indices. This is all available on the Lyxor ETF website. We know as an ETF issuer that selecting the right product is a challenge for investors. Lyxor's efficiency indicator offers a solution to simplify investment decisions.